The ethmoid bone is a complex bone, which is difficult to observe, given that it helps to anchor the bones of the face to the bones of the cranium. The ethmoid is a bone of the cranium, but it can only be observed well when the bones of the face are removed. The ethmoid bone can also be observed in the internal base of the cranium. So, in a transverse section of the cranium, between the two halves of the frontal bone, a portion of the ethmoid bone is visible. Along the midline, there is a structure known as the crista galli, or rooster's comb. This structure serves to anchor one of the layers surrounding the brain, the dura mater, one of the meninges, and thus helps to secure the brain. The image of a sheep's brain is given here. On either side of the crista galli are flat plates known as cribriform plates, which possess many small openings. These are the olfactory foramina, the openings through which the small olfactory nerves pass. There are many small olfactory nerves which leave the olfactory bulb, which is the portion of the brain just superior to the ethmoid bone, and they pass through these olfactory foramina to reach the olfactory epithelium in the nasal cavity. Also along the midline, but projecting inferiorly, is a portion of the ethmoid bone known as the perpendicular plate. This forms part of the nasal septum. The nasal septum, which divides the nasal cavity into two lateral halves, is composed of the ethmoid bone, this perpendicular plate, for the superior part of the septum, and then a bone of the face, the vomer, composes the inferior part of the septum. Lateral to the crista galli and perpendicular plate, which lie along the midline, are two regions of the ethmoid bone known as the lateral masses, which terminate in a flat vertical plate known as the orbital plate, which helps to form the medial border of the eye socket, the orbit. Within the lateral masses are spaces or sinuses. These are also known as the ethmoidal air cells. Like all sinuses, such as those found in the frontal, sphenoid, and maxillary bones. These are lined by mucous membranes, and the mucus produced in these sinuses helps to moisten the air of the nasal cavity. This mucus helps to trap foreign particles. The sinuses help to lighten skull bones and provide resonance chambers for speech. From the lateral masses, there are plates from the ethmoid bone which project into the nasal cavity, which are known as conchi or turbinates. These cause turbulence in the incoming air. So when air is inhaled in the nasal cavity, it can't go straight back into the throat and travel towards the lungs because it hits these projecting plates and it starts to swirl around. As air swirls around, it warms if it's cold. It is humidified if it is too dry. If there is dust or microbes or debris in the inhaled air, it will get caught in the mucus lining the nasal cavity. And so these conchi help to protect the lungs from debris and from air that might be cold or dry. There are three pairs of conchi which project into the nasal cavity. Two pairs come from the ethmoid bone, the superior and middle nasal conchi, while the inferior nasal concha or turbinate is its own separate bone of the face.